The Demon-Haunted World, Science is a Candle in the Dark, by Carl Sagan. Picture this: you're one of the world's most famous scientists. You've spent your entire life exploring the cosmos, unraveling the mysteries of our vast and sometimes terrifying universe. You step off a plane, heading to a conference, and there's your driver, holding up a little cardboard sign with your name on it. While waiting for your luggage, he turns to you with a sheepish grin and asks, "Doesn't it get confusing, having the same name as that famous scientist?" You freeze. Wait, what? And then it clicks. He thinks you're just some random person who happens to share a name. "Actually, I am that scientist," you say. His face flushes with embarrassment, but as you settle into the car for the long drive ahead, his excitement bubbles over. He's got so many questions about science. You lean back, ready to dive into conversations about the stars, the origins of life, maybe even the mysteries of black holes. But that's not where this is going. He wants to know about frozen alien corpses hidden in Air Force bases. He's curious about communicating with the dead, the prophecies of Nostradamus, and Atlantis supposedly sitting at the bottom of the ocean. One by one, you gently explain that the evidence just isn't there, that simpler explanations make much more sense. And as the rain patters against the windshield, you watch his excitement drain away, like water down a storm drain. You realize you're not just poking holes in a few quirky beliefs, you're dismantling a core part of how he sees the world. Here's the thing: this man wasn't stupid. He was genuinely curious, eager to learn, and had a natural appetite for wonder. But somewhere along the way, the world had let him down. Our culture, our schools, our media had filtered out the real science and left him with nothing but cheap knockoffs. He was living in what the great astronomer Carl Sagan would call a demon-haunted world. This true story from Sagan's own life is the beating heart of his masterpiece, The Demon-Haunted World, Science as a Candle in the Dark. This book has sold millions of copies and become something of a Bible for critical thinkers everywhere. But it's not just about debunking flying saucers or ghosts. It goes much deeper than that. It's a passionate defense of our most precious survival tool, our ability to think clearly. Sagan, with his warm and deeply human voice, makes you a promise. By the end of his book, you'll be armed with what he calls a baloney detection kit, a set of mental tools that'll help you navigate a world drowning in misinformation, to separate what feels good from what's actually true. Over the next hour, I'm going to share those tools with you. We'll explore the haunted corners of the human mind, from alien abductions to witch hunts, and discover why the truth revealed by science is far more magnificent and wondrous than any myth we could dream up. This isn't just a book summary. It's an inheritance of wisdom from one of the greatest minds of our time. So let's begin our journey and light a candle in the dark. To really understand Carl Sagan's message, we need to travel back to his childhood, to one pivotal year, 1939. He was just a young boy living in a Brooklyn apartment, gazing out over the choppy Atlantic Ocean. His parents weren't scientists. They knew almost nothing about the field. But they gave him two gifts that would shape his entire life, two gifts that lie at the very heart of the scientific method. The first gift was wonder. His father would patiently explain the magic of numbers, how you could always add just one more and never reach the end. He took young Carl to the 1939 New York World's Fair, this dazzling vision of a future built by science. There, Carl saw exhibits where you could see sound as a beautiful wave dancing on a screen and hear light as crackling static from a speaker. The world, he realized, was bursting with wonders he'd never even imagined. How could light become a sound? How could a tone become a picture? It filled him with this overwhelming sense of awe, this burning desire to understand the grandeur of it all. When he announced he wanted to become an astronomer, His parents, who barely knew what astronomers did, gave him their complete support. But they gave him a second, equally important gift: skepticism. One evening, his mother pointed across the ocean and told him, "There are people out there fighting, killing each other." The Second World War had just begun. Young Carl squinted hard, trying to see the tiny figures battling on the horizon, just like in his comic books. "I can see them," he insisted. His mother's response was gentle but firm. "No, you can't. They're too far away." This was profound. How could she possibly know what he could or couldn't see? But maybe she was right. Maybe it was just his imagination running wild. And that sparked a crucial question. How can you tell when someone's only imagining something? How do you separate what you want to be true from what actually is true? Wonder and skepticism. These two uncomfortable roommates in our minds are the engine that drives science. Science invites us to be open to the most fantastic possibilities, to be filled with awe at the universe's mysteries. But at the same time, it demands that we hold our ideas up to the harsh light of evidence. It insists we test, question, and doubt. This balance is what so many of us struggle with. We humans are, as Sagan puts it, significance junkies. We crave meaning. We see faces in clouds, patterns in random noise, and conspiracies in coincidence. Our brains are hardwired for it. A baby who can recognize a face and smile back is more likely to win their parents' hearts and survive. This pattern recognition machine is a survival tool. But it has a side effect. It makes us see faces where there are none. The most famous example is the man in the moon. For centuries, cultures worldwide have looked up and seen a face. It's not even a good face. It's lopsided, missing ears, and has this strange, doleful expression. But we see it anyway. It's a characteristic conceit of our species, Sagan says, to put a human face on what is really just a history of random cosmic violence. Those dark patches are ancient lava flows from colossal asteroid impacts billions of years ago. But we prefer the story of a face. This same tendency fuels so many of the demons haunting our world. Back in 1976, the Viking orbiter sent back a photograph from Mars. On a dusty plain called Cydonia, there appeared to be a massive stone face, a kilometer across, staring up at the sky. It looked eerily human. Immediately, speculation exploded. Was it a monument left by an ancient Martian civilization, a message for us? Some claim to see an entire city nearby, complete with pyramids and temples. They announced it was built 500,000 years ago, when our own ancestors were just figuring out fire. The story was intoxicating. It became a headline in supermarket tabloids, the subject of endless speculation. NASA was accused of a massive cover-up, hiding the discovery of the millennium. But when we apply the tools of skepticism, the story starts to crumble. We have hundreds of thousands of pictures of Mars. Is it really so shocking that in one of them, a trick of light and shadow on a hill might look like a face? Especially given our brain's powerful habit of finding them. When scientists enhanced the original image, they discovered that the nostril making it look so face-like was actually just a black dot, a piece of missing data from the radio transmission. And when they used computer processing to see the shadowed half of the face, it looked nothing like a face at all. It was almost certainly just a hill, sculpted by wind and time. But the story of the face on Mars is a powerful warning. It shows how easily our hopes and fears, our deep human longing for connection, can lead us astray. It shows how we can build a massive, elaborate story on the flimsiest of foundations. This pattern repeats itself over and over in the realm of pseudoscience. Take the strange saga of crop circles. Starting in the 1970s in England, farmers began discovering intricate geometric patterns in their wheat and barley fields. At first, simple circles, but year by year, they grew more complex, elaborate pictograms the size of football fields. How were they made? It seemed impossible for them to be hoaxes. They appeared overnight, in darkness, with no footprints leading in or out. Experts were called in. Some proposed bizarre whirlwinds or strange electrical phenomena. Others were certain. Aliens were communicating with us in geometric language. The world's media went wild. Crop circle experts authenticated their alien origin. New Age tourists flocked to the sites. The mystery deepened. Many believed it was clear proof of superior intelligence at work. Then, in 1991, two men from Southampton, Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley, confessed. They'd been making the crop circles for 15 years. They came up with the idea one night in a pub, thinking it would be fun to mess with UFO believers. They started with a simple steel bar, then graduated to planks and ropes. They were artists and pranksters, and as the world got more excited, they made their designs more and more complex, just to see what would happen. They were absolutely delighted when scientists and experts announced that no mere human could be responsible. They even left clues. They carved a message in the wheat: "We are not alone." Many took this as a genuine extraterrestrial message. They signed their work with 2 Ds, for Doug and Dave. This, too, was attributed to some mysterious alien purpose. When they finally confessed and demonstrated their methods for reporters, you'd think the story would be over. But it wasn't. The confession got a fraction of the attention the original mystery received. Many people had heard of crop circles, but never heard of Doug and Dave. Believers insisted that while some circles might be hoaxes, the most complex ones couldn't be. The bamboozle had captured them. As Sagan notes, one of the saddest lessons of history is this: if we've been bamboozled long enough, we tend to reject any evidence of the bamboozle. We're no longer interested in finding out the truth. It's simply too painful to acknowledge we've been taken. Nowhere is this more apparent than in the strange and disturbing phenomenon of alien abduction. The story is almost always the same. You wake up in the middle of the night, completely paralyzed. You sense a presence in the room. Small gray beings with large, dark eyes stand at the foot of your bed. They float you out of your room, through the walls into a waiting spacecraft. There, you're subjected to a cold, clinical medical examination, often focused on your reproductive organs. You may be shown hybrid babies, part human, part alien. Finally, you're returned to your bed, with a period of missing time you can't account for. It's terrifying, and millions of people, according to some polls, believe they've experienced it. So what's going on? Are we in the midst of a massive, secret, alien invasion? Or is something else at play? Sagan invites us to look at this phenomenon not as a new mystery, but as a very old one, dressed in modern, scientific clothing. For centuries, people have reported almost identical experiences. The only difference is the name they gave their visitors. In the Middle Ages, they were called incubi and succubi, demons who'd visit people at night, paralyze them, and have sexual intercourse with them. They were perceived as a weight on the chest, which is where the word nightmare comes from. The mare was the demon. These demons could pass through walls and communicate telepathically. Their goal was to create hybrid offspring, part human, part demon. Before that, they were fairies who'd steal babies from cradles and leave changelings in their place. In other cultures, they were Jinn, satyrs, or spirits. The core elements: paralysis, strange beings in the bedroom, a sense of being transported, a focus on reproduction, are remarkably consistent across time and culture. What's changed is the cultural costume. When we believed in a world of gods and demons, we hallucinated demons. When we believed in fairies, we saw fairies. And now, in an age of space travel, in a culture saturated with science fiction about little green men and bug-eyed monsters, we see aliens. The story adapts to the language of the times. Sagan suggests many of these experiences can be explained by a common psychological phenomenon called sleep paralysis. It happens in the twilight state between waking and sleeping. You're conscious, but your body is immobile. It's often accompanied by a sense of pressure on the chest, difficulty breathing, and vivid, terrifying hallucinations. It has, as one psychologist put it, the full force and impact of reality. Add to this the power of suggestion. Many abduction memories only surface under hypnosis, a practice that's notoriously unreliable. A hypnotist can, even unintentionally, plant false memories in a suggestible mind. The desire to please the therapist, combined with a few leading questions, can be enough to construct a detailed, emotionally powerful but entirely false memory. The therapist believes it, the patient believes it, but it never happened outside of the mind. This doesn't mean people reporting these experiences are lying or crazy. The terror they feel is real. The experience is real. The question is it an external reality or an internal one? This is where science becomes indispensable. It offers us a way to distinguish between the two, and it provides us with what Sagan calls the fine art of baloney detection. This is the central tool of the book, a baloney detection kit for critical thinking. It's not a set of rigid rules, but a way of approaching the world. It's a habit of mind, and it contains several key tools. First, wherever possible, there must be independent confirmation of the facts. If someone tells you they have a fire-breathing dragon in their garage, you'd want to see it for yourself. But suppose they say, oh, it's an invisible dragon. You propose spreading flour on the floor to see its footprints. Good idea, they say, but this dragon floats in the air. You suggest an infrared sensor to detect its fiery breath. Good idea, but its fire is heatless, and so on. At some point, you have to ask, what's the difference between an invisible, floating, heatless dragon and no dragon at all? Claims that can't be tested, assertions immune to disproof, are essentially worthless. Your inability to disprove a hypothesis isn't the same as proving it true. Second, encourage real debate on the evidence by knowledgeable people representing all viewpoints. Science is a team sport. It thrives on disagreement and debate. A new idea isn't accepted just because it sounds good. It must survive the most rigorous, skeptical scrutiny of the entire scientific community. Third, arguments from authority carry little weight. In science, there are no untouchable authorities. At most, there are experts. Even the most brilliant scientists have been wrong. Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton, Charles Darwin, they all made mistakes. Science is built on a process of self-correction. What one person misses, another may catch. Your own ideas must be proven in the face of determined expert criticism. Fourth, spin more than one hypothesis. Don't fall in love with the first explanation that pops into your head. Think of all the different ways something could be explained. Then think of tests to systematically rule each one out. The one that survives has the best chance of being right. Fifth, try not to get overly attached to a hypothesis just because it's yours. This is one of the hardest parts of science. You must be willing to abandon your most cherished ideas if the evidence contradicts them. Sixth, Quantify. If you can attach a number to what you're explaining, you're in a much better position to distinguish between competing ideas. Vague, qualitative statements are open to endless interpretations. Seventh, every link in the chain of argument must work. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Eighth, use Occam's razor. When faced with two hypotheses that explain the data equally well, choose the simpler one. And finally, always ask if the hypothesis can be, at least in principle, proven false. If there's no experiment that could ever disprove it, it's not science. This kit also includes a list of the most common fallacies of logic and rhetoric, things like attacking the person instead of the argument, or claiming that whatever hasn't been proven false must be true, or cherry-picking examples, like a gambler who remembers his winning streaks but conveniently forgets all the times he lost. Learning to use this kit isn't about becoming cynical, it's about empowerment. It gives you a way to evaluate the claims bombarding us every day, from commercials and politicians to psychics and religious leaders. It's a way to call the bluff of those who only pretend to have knowledge. Sagan argues the consequences of not using these tools can be catastrophic. He takes us back to the great European witch hunts from the 15th to the 17th centuries. For 300 years, the most advanced nations on Earth were consumed by a terrifying delusion. Hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions, of people, mostly women, were tortured and executed for the impossible crime of witchcraft. How could this happen? It happened because the rules of evidence were thrown out the window. A rumor was enough to get you arrested. If you showed fear, it proved a guilty conscience. If you didn't show fear, it proved you were a witch pretending to be innocent. Torture was used to extract confessions. And under torture, people will confess to anything. The more people who confessed, the more proof there was that the devil was at work. It was a self-perpetuating machine of terror, fueled by superstition, fear, and greed. The witch mania is a horrifying example of what happens when a society abandons critical thinking. And it's a stark reminder of why the principles in the American Constitution and its Bill of Rights are so precious. The right to a fair trial, the prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment, freedom of speech, separation of church and state, these weren't abstract ideas. They were born from the painful recognition of human fallibility. They're error-correcting machinery built into the heart of democracy. This brings us to the most profound connection in the book, the link between science and freedom. Sagan tells the powerful story of Frederick Douglass. Born a slave in the 1820s, he was forbidden by law from learning to read. His master, Hugh Auld, furiously explained why. If you teach that slave how to read, there would be no keeping him. It would forever unfit him to be a slave. In that moment, Douglass understood the great secret. He grasped, as he later wrote, the pathway from slavery to freedom. Literacy, knowledge, the ability to think for yourself. These are the tools of liberation. Douglass taught himself to read, escaped to the North, and became one of the greatest orators and leaders in American history. His life is a testament to the power of knowledge to break chains, both physical and mental. For Sagan, this is the ultimate promise of science. Science isn't just a body of knowledge, it's a way of thinking. It's a way of questioning authority. It's a way of freeing ourselves from the prison of our own biases and superstitions. The values of science and the values of democracy are, in many cases, indistinguishable. Both thrive on the free exchange of ideas. Both demand evidence and reasoned argument. Both require us to be brave enough to question what we've been told, and to change our minds when the evidence demands it. In an age of high technology, this connection is more vital than ever. We've arranged a global civilization where everything, from transportation and communication to medicine and agriculture, depends on science and technology. Yet we've also arranged things so almost no one understands science and technology. This, Sagan warns, is a recipe for disaster. It's a combustible mixture of ignorance and power that will, sooner or later, blow up in our faces. If we're going to navigate the complex challenges of the 21st century, from climate change and pandemics to nuclear proliferation and artificial intelligence, we need a scientifically literate public. We need people who can ask tough questions, who can tell the difference between a real expert and a con artist, who can evaluate evidence and make informed decisions. The journey begins with our children. Sagan mourns how the natural curiosity and wonder of a first grader, the child who asks, "Why is the moon round?" or "What is a dream?" is so often crushed by the time they reach high school. They learn there are dumb questions. They learn to memorize facts instead of discovering the life behind those facts. They lose the wonder and gain very little skepticism. We must do better. We must treasure those questions. We must teach not just the findings of science, but the method of science. We must give our children the tools to think for themselves. In the end, The Demon-Haunted World isn't a book of despair. It's a book of profound hope. It's a love letter to humanity, a celebration of our capacity for wonder and our ability to understand the universe. Sagan doesn't ask us to give up our sense of awe. On the contrary, he shows us that the reality revealed by science is far more awe-inspiring than any pseudoscience could ever be. What's more wondrous, the idea that planets are pushed around the sky by angels, or the reality that they're held in their orbits by an invisible force reaching across hundreds of millions of miles, a force described by a few simple, elegant mathematical laws? What's more amazing? The notion that we were created by gods a few thousand years ago, or the fact that every one of us is, as Sagan famously said, made of star stuff, that the atoms in our bodies were forged in the hearts of distant, long-dead stars billions of years ago. The universe doesn't seem to have been made for us. It's not, as far as we can tell, concerned with our petty dramas. But by daring to ask the questions, by using the tools of science to explore the cosmos and our place within it, we make our world significant. We infuse the universe with meaning. The path to freedom for Frederick Douglass was literacy. For us, living in an age of unprecedented power and peril, the path to a hopeful future is scientific literacy. It's the marriage of our two most human traits, our boundless capacity for wonder and our courageous embrace of skepticism. It's our candle in the dark. As we come to the end of our journey through the demon-haunted world, it's worth pausing to reflect on why this book, written decades ago, feels more urgent and relevant today than ever. We live in an age of information overload. We're bombarded every second with claims and counterclaims, with news and fake news, with voices telling us what to believe, what to fear, and who to hate. The Internet, which was supposed to democratize knowledge, has also become a powerful engine for spreading misinformation. The demons of old, superstition, prejudice, credulity, haven't vanished. They've just gotten new costumes and faster ways to travel. What Carl Sagan offers us isn't a list of facts to memorize, but a way of being in the world. He offers us a defense mechanism against the bamboozles constantly being thrown at us. His baloney detection kit is more than just a tool for scientists. It's a tool for citizenship. It's a tool for sanity. The most powerful lesson I take from this book is the profound connection between how we think and the kind of society we build. A society that embraces credulity, that fears new ideas, that silences its critics, is a society on the path to tyranny. But a society that encourages curiosity, that values evidence, that teaches its children how to ask tough questions and think for themselves, is a society on the path to freedom. Sagan's message is ultimately one of deep optimism. He believed in us. He believed that ordinary people, armed with the tools of critical thinking, could make wise decisions. He believed our hunger for wonder didn't have to lead us into delusion, but could instead lead us to a deeper, more profound appreciation of the real universe. He showed us that science isn't a cold, sterile, dehumanizing enterprise. It's a source of spiritual uplift. To recognize our place in an immensity of light years and in the passage of ages, to grasp the intricacy and beauty of life, that soaring feeling, he said, is surely spiritual. So what can we do, right now, to apply the wisdom of this book? It starts with a simple, personal commitment. The next time you encounter a claim that seems too good to be true or too terrifying to ignore, whether it's on social media, on the news, or in a conversation with a friend, pause for a moment. Pull out your mental baloney detection kit. Ask a few simple questions. Who's telling me this? How do they know? Is there another way to explain it? Have they provided any real evidence? And perhaps most importantly, we can pass this legacy on. When a child asks a question, no matter how simple or strange it seems, treat it with the respect it deserves. It's a cry to understand the world. Don't shut it down. Explore it with them. Go to the library, look it up online, do a little experiment. Show them the world as a discoverable place, and that they have the power to discover it for themselves. In doing so, you're not just teaching them a fact, you're lighting a candle that can illuminate their entire lives. That was a summary of The Demon-Haunted World by Carl Sagan. We've touched on the major themes today, but I'll be completely honest with you. A summary can only ever be a map. The real treasure is in the journey of reading the book yourself. It's in the quiet moments when one of Sagan's beautiful analogies, or a powerful historical story, strikes you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to give you a sense of the terrain, and to help you decide if this is a journey you want to take. If anything we've talked about today has resonated with you, if you feel a stirring of that beautiful mix of wonder and skepticism, then I urge you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning, it's an experience that can genuinely strengthen your mind and change the way you see the world. A link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this summary valuable and want to continue exploring the ideas that have shaped our world, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know this work is making a difference, and it ensures you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep growing together.